It's going live in 3, 2, 1. We are live. I joke that every good live needs a good intro.
Right.
So that's our rough draft intro, which just stuck, because we never made it better. But anyways, welcome everybody to another episode of Discovering Oregon. I'm live today with my guest, Randy Troyer. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Great to be here.
Appreciate you. So we've got the owner of Wingman Visual and also a host for your own show, podcast, The Merchandising Show.
The Merchandise Show.
Merchandise, I'm adding on plurals. All right, so the Merchandise Show, and this is a unique live because Randy wanted to come and do a show that inspires entrepreneurs, specifically someone between the ages of 15 to 30 that we hope this little mini episode will be an inspiration and help to. And so we've got our live recording, and then right behind us, in fact, here, I'll just pivot around so you can see, right behind our little setup is Randy's setup. And so he's recording simultaneously. So we're just hitting two birds with one stone because we're efficient.
We are.
So before you flip the script and whatever you want to ask me, I'm an open book. You know that, Randy. But I guess tell me a little bit more about how you ended up hosting your own show and doing visual work.
I have always had this feeling that I need to be out serving people and helping people. And I never exactly knew what I was supposed to be doing with that. And shame on me. I did not act on that sooner.
No shame. This is a no shame environment, by the way.
No shame?
So you're temporarily free for the day.
This is a safe space.
Yeah.
I worked in agriculture and construction all of my time in the workforce. In 2022, things were really slowing down at my agricultural job, and they said, if you stay, we'll try to find something for you to do. Like, we're not going to lay you off, but if you want to leave, now would be a good time to do that because we're not really going to replace you if you leave. And so, there was really nothing for me to do there, or not enough for me to do there. So video production was something that I had been doing on the weekends with some friends, filming duck hunts.
Oh, nice.
Duck and goose hunts.
Love duck hunting.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
You are a true Oregonian, aren't you?
I'm a true Oregonian, Randy. I was trying to tell you that. I'm born and raised. I didn't pick it up until later, like in college days. Actually, one of my good friends and former past clients, Ben Abbey, who's now TikTok famous as Box Dad.
Okay.
Out of Amesville, Oregon.
Yeah.
Ben, if you're watching, I doubt he is. He doesn't have time for my stuff. But yeah, he was the first one to take me duck hunting, and I'll be forever grateful for that. Anyways, I digress. So you're in the agricultural world, and you pivot to visual, something you had been dabbling on the side, and now you're jumping into it full time.
Yeah. I basically did it for 3 years, and I started off with some crappy equipment like everybody does. But over the course of 3 years, I picked up a bunch of gear, and I also picked up a bunch of skills because every video is just trying to make it just a little bit better. And so whether that's planning what you're going to video while you're on the hunt, or whether that's just being very intentional with what you're videoing on the hunt, or whether that's editing, I was just trying to make every video better. And some of that had to do with gear as well. At the end of 3 years, I was like, well, I've got the right gear, and I really feel like I have the right skills to do this for other people. Because, I go on people's websites or their social media, and I look at those videos, and I'm like, I could do that. I'm pretty sure somebody's getting paid to do that. So I had no idea what I was doing as far as business. I didn't really care. I just dove right in. I left the job at the agricultural company. It was a grass seed warehouse. I just dove right off of that, or out of that job, and just started a business. And I picked up a few jobs from family and friends. But then, those kind of, I got done with all of those, did all of those jobs, and then I was just kind of hung out to dry. And that's when the master class in how to run a business started for me, and it was experience,
Oh,
right? And it was rough. It was really, really rough trying to figure all of that out. And my whole thing with that experience was, you know, I I've had this I've had I don't know if it's like a personality trait or something, but I never really liked working for somebody else. Um, at some point, and I know there's conflict in like every relationship and stuff like that, but it just seems like working for somebody else, a little part of me died every
mm,
day,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm. I
And
feel that.
I I mean, I haven't made tons of money working for myself, but it's probably the happiest I've ever been, and I've grown so much as a human since I've actually taken that plunge. And kind of walking through, the journey since 2022 till now, just recently, I had somebody that challenged me, to get outside my comfort zone and to do something that I've felt like I've always needed to do. And I was like, you know what? Getting, starting an LLC, starting a business bank account, registering your name with the state and all that, it's not near as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would love for young people today to know that. And another thing that I figured out is like all of these business owners and entrepreneurs, you start talking to them and you figure out, oh, these guys really don't have everything figured out.
No, they're
Like I
failing forward, man.
like I thought they did
Yeah.
before I started. And so I'm just trying to get that message out there because like I said before, it's just I've never been at a happier place in my life. And also, it's just stretched me and made me grow as a human.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thank you for that intro. And, I'm curious. Obviously, we're kind of trading for show format. So for us, we're pretty free form, and we just like to, our mission at Door is to facilitate the discovery of community, legacy, and adventure through real estate. So it's really a three-part mission. And on front facing, you might just see it simplified to helping you find your people and find your place. And a big part of that is conversations with other business owners, or later today, some of our local politicians that are going for public office, which is coming up in like a little shameless plug for our debate coming up in literally an hour and a half. Tune in again at 6 o'clock from the Door office. We're going to be having some interesting conversations about homelessness today. But I want to give the floor over to you, just partially because I'm scouting out your format for your show, but just to give us whatever you want to accomplish. I'm giving you the floor.
All right. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I want to dive into, um, what it was like for you growing up and basically your mindset surrounding the time that you started your own business, right? And I read up a little bit on your website. Sounds like you were a little bit of a maybe an overachiever, ambitious individual. Maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my coaching clients about this. Being in a hurry, having a chip on my shoulder, those were certainly common threads. So entrepreneurship started for me really young as a survival tactic because I grew up, I would say, fairly, poor is an interesting word because it's very subjective. I had this wealth of relationships. I have 7 brothers and sisters, which is awesome. And we were homeschooled on like a small little hobby farm in Brownsville, right? And there was a lot of benefit to that environment, and there was a lot of challenge as well. But I think some of the basic things where I can recall early on, I wanted to play football, and my folks weren't necessarily willing to front the money for like pads, or they weren't really willing to pay for anything that they didn't want to get behind, and football, to their credit, probably a lot of kids suffer head injuries. Maybe I did. Maybe that's part of the reason why I'm a little bit neurotic, but um, maybe that's TMI. So don't worry, I can be trusted you with your real estate endeavors, but I do not sleep super well, and I do work extremely hard, and I have my whole life. And I think entrepreneurship really just started with knocking on doors and doing work for neighbors. And then in college, that really evolved to knocking on doors and running a painting business. So started college at 15, transferred to Oregon State when I was 17, and that's when the real bills started coming in. And I ended up graduating at 19 debt free, but that's because I worked my butt off painting houses, running a painting business, really. So at 17, I joined forces with one of the local student internships, they call it College Works Painting, and I owe a huge amount of my entrepreneurship journey to great mentors that I had in that space that taught me how to market a business, that taught me how to sell a business without having any startup money myself, how to do really grassroots marketing. And that time it was the worst economy since the Great Depression, right? This was 2009, 2010. And I remember knocking on just about every single door in Brownsville, Halsey, Harrisburg, the little rural communities I grew up in, until I eventually graduated to work in the big city of Corvallis. Right?
Huge.
Huge. And I, yeah, I knocked on a ton of doors, and that was 95% of my business source running a painting business was knocking on doors, finding people who wanted free estimates, finding homes that had a need for a painting, and just offering them a number. And that's where I cut my teeth on management as well. Managing a profit and loss, managing client expectations, managing employees, hiring and firing. All that occurred between the ages of 17 and 19. By the time I was 19, I had over 100 painters working for me. I had 30 different students I had recruited to teach how to run their own painting businesses. And so that was really more of sales management. I think that's when I got my passion for coaching, which I continue to this day. So that was all pre-real estate.
Wow.
And I think that was all pre-20s, actually. So I graduated college. Also, I had suffered a series of injuries that had kind of taken the wind out of my sails. Ended up taking 6 months off, traveled the world, ended up learning how to sail, ended up in Micronesia doing philanthropy work out in the South Pacific, namely on a little island nation in Palau, going island to island, rebuilding tin structures and painting park benches after a typhoon rolled through there, and all kinds of stories there. But I think to answer your question, entrepreneurship has just been this kind of unending roller coaster that started in painting and then involved in a real estate at 21. That's when I pivoted and got my license.
Okay. You, I read on your website that you started doing construction type of work around the age of 12. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yep. So that was for just various neighbors, and then eventually my uncle actually was a lot of learning to him because he was building a house right down the road from us and would pretty much only hire family for this like 4,000 square foot house that he was building that took like 4 years to build because it was me and my brothers that were his predominant workforce. And I want to say I was about 12 or 13 when that process started with him.
Okay. Was like hard work, was that like a big thing to your family, like at home? Lots of chores and stuff like that? Or it was more of a laid back atmosphere? Maybe explain that dynamic a little bit.
Hard work was the expectation. Yeah, there wasn't a real choice around that. I would say having 10 people in a 4 to 5 bedroom house, 4 bedroom house with a remodeled garage, means that every square foot of that house was pretty much getting cleaned every day. And then having, 2 acres and change, almost 3 acres with like 100 fruit trees. Anytime you told a lie, you got to go plant a fruit tree. So spread that around 8 kids in a decade of time. There's over 100 fruit trees out there, I'm sure. Now,
Really? That
yeah,
was an actual thing.
that was an actual thing. That was an actual thing. It wasn't consistent like anything, right? There was definitely reasons for fruit trees that were discovered to get planted, and so hard work was just a part of growing up in my family for sure, absolutely,
All right.
and something I actually am really thankful for now. In the moment, you're not,
Yeah.
right? You're bitter and you're watching all your friends play and
Yeah.
do whatever they want on after school, and it was like school for us was actually a privilege. You got to go and crack the books open after you finished your chores.
Oh.
So it was more of education, it gave me a lot more value for my education because education was like a privilege. It wasn't considered like this thing I had to do. It was this thing I got to do
Oh,
after I got my mindless work done.
so you said you got out of high school at like 15?
So technically, and this is good for the demographic that you're looking to chat with. I think that one of the better kept secrets is there's several high schools now that offer underage enrollment options. So, you can take AP classes at a high school. I know that Lebanon High School for the longest time offered people the opportunity at their junior year of high school to actually go over and start taking college classes at LBCC to cover their high school diploma credits. For me, because I was homeschooled, I was able to actually get the high school to pay for my first 2 years of college through the community college, or at least help a lot with that. And so when I was 15, I started taking classes at LBCC. When I was 16, that's where I actually got my high school diploma, was an adult high school diploma through LBCC, simultaneously with my associate's degree at the same time. So I hit two birds with one stone, 15 to 16. That saved me a lot of time. It saved me a lot of money. I could not recommend that path more. I lost some social elements, but you can make up for that by just making great friends.
I would have never guessed that you were homeschooled. Never.
Really?
No, I would have, like, I, back when I started my business, I started, searching other businesses online. And I think I started in Corvallis because, I live like 15 minutes from here. Yours was your, like, Discover Oregon Real Estate was one of the ones that, like, really stood out to me because, like, here's this guy that's just out there just making these crazy videos, singing on his videos, doing all of this stuff. Like, this is not your typical Remax, okay? This is like, I don't know what this guy's plan is with all of his content and stuff, but like your business like really stood out to me, and it was like never would have I thought this guy is like the stereotypical homeschooler.
I don't know that there was a lot about my childhood that would fit within a stereotype. It was a pretty unique experience. I think it was also going on 17 years ago. So I mean, really, it was time has passed. I'm sure some things have gotten socialized out of me. But I think also, I was really grateful to have a good social network all my life. And I still played sports in high school, so I still had a foot in high school, in middle school, and in high school. I still played sports at public schools. I played football for Central Lynn. I played football for Linus Pauling. Um, and I mean, God, those locker rooms that is the crucible of depravity. A middle school football locker room, or a high school football locker room for that matter. And so, yeah, I think my innocence was left behind in those venues.
So you transferred to OSU when you were how old?
17.
17. Okay. And you started your painting business around the same time or no?
Yep, same year.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay. So
And
you
it was
seem
through an internship that was offered on campus. It was through College Works Painting, which was an internship that recruited, was active in recruiting at Oregon State and at U of O at the time.
okay. Everything seems to be a little bit ahead of schedule when, like, just when you think about a lot of, I want to say kids, but I'm still pretty young. Well, I guess I'm 27. I'm getting old. But like
Oh, you're so old, Randy.
17,
You're so.
17 does not seem like a time that like a lot of kids nowadays would start a business.
No, that was survival. That was just I was literally working. I mean, when I was 15, I didn't have a car.
Okay.
I was driving. I was riding my bike from Brownsville to Albany to go to school at LBCC. I would do classes all day. Then I'd ride my bike from LBCC campus, South Albany, to Domino's Pizza. I would shake a banner in front of Domino's Pizza for $7.50 an hour, right?
You would shake a banner, wouldn't you?
I was the band dude. I was good at it too. I mean, I was cranking in those $5.99 pepperoni pizzas. I would get so many people to buy pepperoni pizzas. That's really when I learned sales, was actually that banner, realizing you could stand on the corner or you could leverage the crosswalk and just walk in front of the cars on the intersection of Pacific Boulevard and Gary right there. And I would just walk in front of them and I'd make direct eye contact with them with the banner. And I would just point and they would give me the thumbs up and I'd watch them turn in the parking lot. So I would get eye contact agreement from my ads in banner shaking.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, that job served me well. It taught me good character, but it was terrible pay. I'd ride my bike all the way there, shake a banner for 4 hours, and then I would have a bunch of map quested instructions printed out for a pin drop in a random field, and then I would go and work the night shift for Boss Hart Trucking and drive a baler for them from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. And then I would get out of there, ride my bike to either back to school to sleep on a bench for an hour and then hit my 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. class, or I'd go crash at a friend's house in Albany. And so I really started being on my own at 15. And then I kept doing the pizza farming thing, 15 to 16. Once I got a car, I was able to make that work more. And then I still was doing some construction work on the side. But at 17, I realized like I'm just working minimum wage. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford these credits or work enough hours. I have to find a way to make my dollar per hour value greater. And so building a business just was like, I looked at the financials and they're like, yeah, you can make, instead of making $5,000 in the summer, you can make 25 grand, but you're going to work 120 hours a week and you're going to have to work all spring to book that work. And also, if you suck, you're not going to make anything because you got to manage profitability on these jobs, and you might have to paint some of them yourself. If you can't make your bids work. And so it was survival. It was survival. It was the crucible that they say. What do they say? Necessity is the great inventor of solutions. And so that's what entrepreneurship became for me.
Are you a big Dave Ramsey fan, or like student debt just was not an option to you?
I didn't have any credit. I didn't have any co-signers. I just didn't know what my options were. I think I grew up in an environment where debt was looked at as a bad thing, and I think that part of it was just the chip in my shoulder. Like I didn't feel a lot of support, I think, probably from my folks at the time of like going to college. I definitely had it from my grandparents, but they had passed away at that time. My grandfather passed away as I was making that transfer. Along with that was some of the support that I was getting for books and tuition. And so I think that was part of just the chip on my shoulder was I was going to do this and I was going to do it without going into debt. And I figured if it was possible to do that, that's what I wanted to do. And so that's what I did.
Do you still carry that mindset forward? Like try to keep debt on the down low, or are you a little bit more open to debt now? How's that like affected the way you do business?
I mean, I leverage debt as a key part of my business now. I mean, I've after I got my license, I started building out a development company. I've flipped a lot of homes. I've bought a lot of real estate. I've leveraged. I think leveraging, if when you can, leveraging the bank's money is a smart business decision, as long as you got a plan to pay them back, right? So whether that's a renter that's paying the mortgage or time frame on a flip. I mean, I've leveraged debt to the point of real challenge at the start of COVID. I mean, to the point where it created some pretty much the opposite. I've ridden both sides of the extremes of that spectrum. Let me put it that way.
Are you married?
I used to be.
You used to be.
Yeah.
And you got kids, right?
Just one. Yeah.
Okay. So how does that play into like the entrepreneurship? Would you recommend getting married, having kids, starting a family over the same time that you, let's say, want to start a business?
Oh man, that's a great question, Randy. I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice on this. I mean, I know what not to do, right?
Okay.
I'm like the one difference probably between me and most people my age. I'll turn 32 in 2 months. Most of the people that I look at that are coming out of their 20s have just not failed as much as me. They just haven't. I mean, Was married at 21, divorced at 28. Um, I built a real estate team up for that was consistently closing up to 160 deals a year, to then taking a year off and closing no deals during COVID. I turned my business into a referral business and basically completely backed away and thought I might not even come back to the industry at all before I started my own brokerage, and doubled down and went all in on building something I was proud of. And all of that was just failure upon failure upon failure. So entrepreneurship is really challenging. And I think that starting a family is really challenging. I think getting married is really challenging. I think I got my real estate license, and I when I look at that, like that first year, I was 21, I got my license, I closed my first deal, spent that money on an MRI, found out that I had a herniated disc and a broken back. 2 weeks later, I got back surgery. 2 weeks later after that, I got married. And that was a lot. Like I don't know if you look back on the track record, obviously that relationship didn't survive the test of time, at least not as a marriage, right? Now it's just a co-parenting relationship. And it all depends on the person, all depends on the partner, right? There are some partners, I think I always dreamed about having that partner that I could build businesses with and be entrepreneurial with, but I think that's really, really rare. I think it's really rare. I think usually a good family should be ran like with an org chart, like division of labor, who does what, and are we on the same page, and to some element of it. Obviously, you want to keep some level of magic, but I think that a family is its own organism that requires its own organizational plan, and you try to overlay that with a business org chart, and it gets really messy really fast. And I think it's an abnormal accomplishment when someone can do that within the confines. But I'm also a huge fan of family business. It's a dichotomy. I've worked with most of my siblings, and I'd do it again.
You said something on the phone the other day that kind of intrigued me. You said that starting a business, entrepreneurship, or yeah, maybe it was like starting a business is kind of like starting a family in the aspect that it is spiritual.
Yes.
I'd like you to dive into that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. My approach is I look at, especially now more than ever, and I've gone through different phases of this. I've gone through the phase of just treating a business like pieces on a chessboard, and you're just trying to stack up an organization to move a mission forward. But that creates problems when you look at people as pieces on a chessboard, because they're much more than that, and that'll seep into culture, and people will just they'll feel that, and more importantly, their families will feel that, and potentially their clients will start feeling that too. So more and more, I look at organizations as organisms rather than in a brick and mortar LLC, whatever, a construct of business elements. And that organism is its own living, breathing, sort of chosen family, if you will. And so you have the family you're born with, and then you have the family you choose along the way. And for a lot of people, the family that they end up choosing along the way becomes the people they work with, because they see them every day, because they spend so much time with them. And so the spiritual element to building a business, to me, is just honoring that fact of what time is our most valuable commodity. It's the one thing we can spend that we can't get back once we spend it. And where we choose to work, and the businesses that we choose to be a part of, whether as an employee or as an owner, are going to take a huge chunk of our time. I think that needs to be honored, and that beyond just the paycheck that people get, or the return on investment they get from being a part of business, there has to be something more than that. And so the spiritual element to running a business is, one, an honoring of the time, and an acknowledgement that every single organization has a chance to build meaning into their culture, and meaning into those working relationships that transcends beyond the work that's being done, or not, right? And we've all worked those dead-end jobs that feel like they're sucking the soul out of us. And I think that part of the responsibility of being a business owner is to not create that kind of environment. So even if you're selling paper, find a way to make it fun. We sell real estate. It's really stressful sometimes. We facilitate the discovery of community, which is not an easy task. It takes a lot of time to get to know people and introduce some other people. We facilitate the discovery of legacy. That is a super tall order when you're trying to help someone make long-term financial strategic decisions on their cash flow and their real estate portfolio. But there's a reason why we also facilitate the discovery of adventure at the same time. Because if we can do both of those things and make it as fun as possible, then I feel like we're really winning.
That's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of the founders, business owners that I've talked to, is I don't know where I got this or why, I tend to think this way, but like my automatic assumption of a lot of business owners was like they just have their own business and they're doing this because they're greedy and they just want money, right? And what I've found out is a lot of these people just have a much bigger vision than that. Um, like they want to help build strong businesses in the community in order to give good jobs to the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, there was a mortgage company that I talked to, one of the guys there, and he was, they took all of the phone calls and they did their best to educate people whether they were in a position to actually buy a home at the time, you know, because their greater mission was to help educate and to serve people the best that they could, right? And he said now with all of that education that is actually paying off on the back end, right? Because now all those people that were educated through them are excuse me, are getting their mortgages through them now.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's just really interesting. How does somebody come up with that? Like somebody thinks that they want to start a business, but um, maybe they feel like the vision for a greater purpose besides just making money isn't quite there. Maybe talk about that balance a little bit.
I think one of the businesses I feel most proud of that I helped start and that's still in operation today was Uptown Lights, and it was a company that was kind of started on the fringe on the wake of our painting business, with the premise that my buddy and Andrew and I, we had all these painters that would be seasonal, right? They work all summer and then you had to run ladders and work hard, but then we didn't have enough work because we didn't focus on interior. We didn't have enough work to keep them employed through the winter. So we started this business, which was really originally the impetus for this was a benefit corp where we were going to take 10% of the revenue and give it back to causes that mattered to us. And like I said, it's one of the businesses I'm more proud of because we we had no we had no model for it. There was no one else doing it at the time that we knew of that we were competing with. So we literally just showed up November with like some carbon copy blank contract forms, like no sample contract, nothing. We started an LLC and just was, same thing, $150 at LegalZoom. And I was like researching benefit corporations. I was like, well, what if we make it a benefit corp? And it was just too much paperwork. I was like, well, let's just tell them what we're going to do with the money. And we had 3 different organizations that we were trying to raise money for. One of them was Compassion Connect, the local nonprofit in Portland. The other one was Foundation First, which drilled wells over in third world countries, and then we had Safe Haven Humane Society. And so we had these causes that we all kind of brought to the table and wanted to raise money for, and then we would let the clients know, hey, as part of doing business with us, we're going to take 10% of whatever the revenue is, and we're going to put that money towards which one of these you select. So we kind of involved them in the giving process, but we just gave them the choices, and then we just marked up our bids to help facilitate that giving. And I'm really proud because we started that company a decade ago, and over a decade ago, and it's still running today with the same 10% margin off revenue. So that in many years, that company was giving more money away than it was actually keeping as a profit. It's 10%, giving from 10% of revenue is ambitious. And I actually applied a similar model to that in our first round on our real estate company. And it was really challenging giving from revenue. It's really challenging. But Uptown Lights still does it. Still 10%. And we put people's lights up and we took them down and we scaled that average job size from $500 a job to $1,000 a job to now they're doing $2,000-$3,000 lighting, professional lighting jobs, on Peacock Lane or these, elaborate neighborhood Street of Dreams. And it raises a lot of money for charity. And so I think sometimes you can actually build passion and purpose into the very structure of your business, and that can help a lot. Because it's like every deal that goes by, it's going towards something that matters.
Yeah. How many businesses have you started or helped start?
Yeah. So, there was College Works, and then I probably helped over the course of college 60 different kids start their own businesses within that same model. So that was just pre-20. Then there was Compassion Entrepreneurs and Uptown Painting, and then there was Risk Real Estate Group, and then from there we started Risk Group Property Management, Risk Investments, which was also a hold company, Risk Development. So I had a lot of stuff out, named after myself. Did develop, still have Risk Development, still have Risk Group Property Management. Risk Enterprises was just a C Corp, was more of a tax shelter thing, but we did consulting through that company. And now I consult for another company. And then since starting my own brokerage, we've just started Discover Oregon Real Estate. We've started Door in Washington, Discover Washington Real Estate. And there'll be many more in the next 10 years.
What drives you to just go out there and start new businesses?
People, the right people, the right partners.
Okay. Partners are a big part of starting new businesses for you?
Yeah, absolutely. If I find the right person, I'll start a business around them.
Okay. Maybe explain that process a little bit.
I'm good at starting things. And if I feel like there's someone that wants to carry something and just doesn't know where to start, I'm a fire starter. So I'll start a fire if I feel like there's someone that I can start it with that's able to keep it going and carry it.
How much more time do we have?
I'm going to give you your 5. We're at the 5 minute, final 5. By the way, thanks for all your questions. I usually am the one asking questions, so it's kind of fun having the script flipped.
Maybe we could go to something that's just a little bit more light, actually a lot lighter. You're on a road trip, stop for gas, you head inside. What's your go-to snack/drink combo?
So this has changed. I usually go for the almonds, like the wasabi almonds, or the
Blue Diamond?
Yeah, Blue Diamond. That's my jam. Blue Diamond, and then Tillamook jerky. And then there's the recent addiction I've acquired of drinking a lot of Diet Coke. And that I blame that on one of my great buddies, John Gillenhammer. He's one of the most successful guys I know. He runs logistics for the entire West Coast for Amazon. And he retired at 30, and he is city council for Orange County. He'll probably be president one day, is my guess.
Nice.
And he drinks a lot of Diet Coke. I was like, you know what? If John can drink Diet Coke, I can drink Diet Coke.
Well, everybody's all hung up on like habits and morning routines of successful people. So maybe you just jump in on the Diet Coke thing.
Aspartame, man. It's aspartame plus the caffeine. There's a reason why millions of people drink Diet Coke every day. And that's a strange habit I picked up in my 30s.
Are you like health conscious with a lot of the food that you eat?
I'm feast or famine on that. Like literally I think a couple of things I try to do that serve me well is I try to eat fruit before noon. That's from Jesse Itzler. I'm pretty much every morning I wake up and I drink like a cup full of psyllium husk, which is just like straight fiber.
Okay.
And I'll drink that and coffee, and that's like breakfast for me most days. If I eat, I'll usually be fruit. Otherwise, I skip and just do intermittent fasting, and I'll usually only eat 1 or 2 meals a day. And then if I only eat 1 meal a day, it's usually 3 meals worth in one moment. That's what I'm working on. I wouldn't say I mean, I would say I'm health aware, and I would say that my habits are slowly catching up to my awareness. I don't actually drink Diet Coke every day. I am a little bit concerned about aspartame and MSG, and like I grew up, and have been surrounded by healthy people my whole life, and so they remind me of the horrors of the junk food that I sometimes put in my body. But
Yeah. Um, Pineapple on pizza.
yeah,
Yes?
absolutely,
Yes or no?
absolutely.
Where do you think that the whole thing of anti-pineapple on pizza comes from? Because like a lot of people that I ask that question to, oh yeah. Or if they're not like yes, they're like, well, it's I'd eat it if it was in front of me.
I don't know, sweet and savory, man. Put them together. I think I can't imagine ever being a picky eater. I grew up where food was put in front of you, you know.
Yeah.
So if it's pizza, I can't imagine not eating it.
Right. Right.
Pineapple, great. Throw it on there. I don't know where that comes from. That baffles me.
So you're really big on like local community, that type of stuff.
Hmm.
What's the best pizza in the area?
Oh, great question. American Dream is my typical go-to. Great crust, great vibe, um, cool venue. You know, they've got the one on campus, and then they've got the Monroe rooftop bar, and uh, but it's tough. Corvallis has got some great pizza. Sedici's is really good. Sorrel is just really good. American Dream is the best.
All right. Is there anything better in the surrounding areas? If you would go down to Eugene or if you'd go up to Salem?
Pizza More has got they've got the corner on the garlic knots. They've got the corner on the appetizer elements. So I mean, it depends on what we're going for. If we're
Yeah.
talking, and then also there's a whole nother sect of pizza which is like the pesto pizza. I will say, okay, a lesser known thing, and I'll end with this. That I think a total up and coming place is the Gilgamesh Brewery in Independence. They have wood fired pizza, and I mean that place is actually really incredible. So, in terms of local, if we're talking outside of Corvallis, I would actually highlight Gilgamesh in Independence, right there on the main street.
Nice. All right. One more question. Is cereal breakfast soup?
I have no idea. Sure,
You have a favorite breakfast cereal or no?
fruit before noon, baby.
Fruit
I
before?
don't. I don't. I mean, that's
Fruity Pebbles,
if I
Fruit
eat
Loops.
if I eat like fruity. If I eat a donut or like fruity crap like that, I crash. You know, like
Really?
yeah, I'll do it. You know, if it's in front of me, I'll eat it. But I try not to buy it, and even when I do, like I've got a bunch of cereal in my cupboard that's been there forever. I just don't eat it. So I would say sure for those that eat it. Don't eat empty carbs and sugar for breakfast though.
Amen. Amen. All right. That's all I got.
Hey man, I'm looking forward to seeing some of your shows. I appreciate your time, and I guess I want to ask you one question before I end on this live.
All right. Let's do it.
If you could accomplish one thing before you died, what would that one thing be?
Oh man. That's a really good question, and I don't know if it would have had an answer um, before a couple of weeks ago. I was at a you know who Brendan Bouchard is?
Yeah, love Brennan.
Okay, I was at one of his events, Growth Day,
Yeah, nice.
and was it him or was it one of his guest speakers that was talking and was just really really emphasizing that you need to be your true authentic self. And I know that sounds cliche and like a motto you would put on your living room wall. But for so long, I grew up in a very, very conservative setting, conservative church. And for years, I put a damper on all that. And that's done so much damage to me. So, with the whole podcast, yes, I am trying to help people start their own business in order to, have more purpose or find more fulfillment in life, but also I want to also help people that came from the same setting as I did find their true authentic self and love their true authentic self because um, I'm a Christian and Jesus told us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, if we don't actually become our true authentic self, then we're not loving the people around us. And if I could bring people to love themselves and to serve out of that abundance of love that they find for themselves, that would be one thing that I would consider myself accomplished and um, fulfilled.
I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't give what you don't have,
You
right?
can't give what you don't have.
So I think that's super powerful. Well, that's I think that's a wrap. So to tune in for more, how do we find more about you and what you're doing?
We have a YouTube channel where I put like the podcast. That would be the Merchandise Show. Merchandise is spelled MRCHN Dice, and it's basically a play on I want people to take a gamble, roll the dice, start something that's going to bring them more fulfillment. So you can just search on YouTube MRCHNDICE show, and we pop up. You can do that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. Nobody else has anything close to that, I don't think. Every time I've searched for it, it pops right up. So you can find us there. We also have an Instagram where we share like show clips and stuff like that, or a TikTok. We have a TikTok account. I don't keep up with that one as much as I do on Instagram, but yeah, just search Merchandise Show on any of those platforms and we should pop up.
Great. Do us a favor, everybody. Give our man Randy here a follow. Support what you're doing. I really appreciate you jumping on, sharing from your heart, asking some questions, and pulling some stuff out of me. And I'm sure we'll do this again sometime, man.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Definitely need a part 2.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, Tim Rist with Door, here to help you find your people and find your place. That's a wrap.